Good morning. There, that works. Okay, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to get started. This is the Police Services Board September 27th, 23 meeting. I would like to remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised. Please ensure that your phones are on silent mode. If you're joining virtually, please use the Microsoft Teams raise hand feature icon to be called upon and remove it when finished speaking. With that, I call the September 27th, 2023 Police Services Board meeting to order. First on the agenda is approval of the agenda, changes to the agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add or discuss further? Nothing at this time. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion approved by Councillor Vanden Rishi, Member Vanden Rishi, and seconded by Member Santos. That motion is carried. Second item of business is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, number 3 on our agenda item is confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting. We have the following meeting minutes before us today. Item 4.1, Police Services Board minutes on June 28th, 2023. And then 4.2, Police Services Board minutes on July 26, 2023. And the July 26th meeting, just so the OPP may be thinking they weren't at that meeting, you didn't miss, you weren't supposed to be there. It was more of a workshop format for us. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Member Cruz and seconded by Member Van Houten. All in favor? Any opposed? No, that motion is carried. Presentations. We have no presentations at this time today. And deputations, we do not have any deputations today. Consent agenda. We have 3 consent items today. Does any board member wish to pull an item for further discussion? Member Santos.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I would like to ask a few questions of our Chief Tate.
Yes.
In regards to the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off, Chief Tate, on page 20 of the agenda, and that's 20 of 53. I believe it's month of June. So on page 20.
Okay.
And I will reference also page 35, which is month of July, and page 49, which is the month of August. So they all go along with this question. So Chief, I've noticed here where it says operational, request for support to other detachments, areas to assist with shortages. So I've noticed that in June, our detachment and in July and August, is this something that will be ongoing throughout the year? Or is just this along with the borderless policing in Norfolk County?
Thank you very much for the question. It's kind of multifaceted and several different approaches as well. You are correct. There is an obligation on Ontario Provincial Police for the multi-jurisdictional support to other neighboring detachments. So we always try to do our best to help one another as the Ontario Provincial Police. Sometimes we're in need and sometimes the neighboring detachments at need. Also to, without kind of delving into specifics here, quite often a lot of those numbers specific to say Norfolk may involve if say a neighboring detachment has some sort of event, like a large scale event or some sort of thing that requires extra resources from the OPP as well. And conversely, the same for us. Very often with say Putahawk or PD13 coming up, we'll draw from other neighboring detachments as well to support us.
So Madam Chair, through you to our Chief. So just a clear understanding, it's normal, it's continuous, even though it's summer, we can expect this throughout the whole year. Is that correct?
Quite often, I would say it's pretty seasonal specific. I know in the summertime, the Grand Bends Sauble Beach do draw enormous crowds, and our officers are very frequently going over there to support as well. There may be the occasion outside of season for events. Obviously, if there's some sort of maybe an unexpected event or some sort of large scale gathering and that requires more resources, we'll do that. But typically, it is pretty isolated to the summer months.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
I do, Madam
Yep,
Chair,
go ahead.
if I can.
Yep.
On page 29 of 53, noteworthy occurrences. If everyone wants to turn to that page, that's page 29 of 53. I noticed here in July, it says here, police and EMS assaulted while assisting a person in distress. Accused kicked, spat, and attempted to bite. Now, I bring that to the OPP because what I've read over the summer in the Simcoe Reformer and the Brantford Expositor is that there has been at least 8 charges that I've seen and I've read of men and women that have been arrested, allegedly arrested, assaulting a peace officer, a police officer. So the concern that I have is that there has been an increase that I've noticed. Maybe it's because the way the media has set it out, but I noticed here it says noteworthy occurrences. And the concern that I'm having is, or the alarm that I'm having is, for example, on September the 18th, I read that Monday night in Waterford, an officer was assaulted. And again, this continues. And I know that there's, an attack on our officers basically is an attack on everything that I believe is good. The concern that I have here is, what's the punishment and the deterrent? Because these numbers are alarming to me, like 8 within a span of June, July, August. Now, those numbers aren't in our stats, but this is basically what I've noticed in our local paper. So, Chief, could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, thank you. Excellent question. I'll try my best to comment on it. I think a lot is public perception as well. We are influenced and impacted by what we see, what we read, as far in different platforms and that, which can kind of form our basis on things. Specific to that, you're absolutely correct. Policing is not without its challenges. Our officers, I can proudly state, in the Ontario Provincial Police are highly trained. Just everything from their abilities to mitigate and manage crisis, to be able to think on their feet, to be very decisive, to be empathetic and caring towards people as well. Police officers we're really no different than anybody else. We tie our shoes and boots the same way as anybody else. We're people too. We're all human beings, and oftentimes we do come across people that are in crisis very often, and we do our best to try to resolve the situation peacefully. Unfortunately, sometimes our officers are put in harm's way. That's never a good day, but fortunately we are trained. As far as seeing that there's a spike in assaults against police, I'm not privy to that. I just don't have the information in front of me to really, the analytics, not to support that, to be able to give a real fulsome response to that. Something I can definitely look at and obviously maybe comparatively across the province, and that just to kind of see out of interest to see where we are with that climate.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
I'm sure.
Continue. You have
yes,
one more?
I do. But before we just finish with that question, Madam Chair, I'm going to wonder, I know we're an oversight body of the OPP, but this gravely concerns me. So I'm just wondering if a letter could be sent from the PSB to possibly the Crown Attorney's Office from us, the Police Services Board, to make it clear that I know there's follow through, or possibly our Chief of Police meeting with the Crown Attorney's Office, because I mean, if there is an uptick of assaults, I want to make sure that these individuals are charged.
All right, would you like to put that as a motion?
So the motion I put forth in reference to that is if the Police Services Board could write a letter to the Crown Attorney's Office and request or advise that we've noticed an uptick. Well, I've noticed with regards to, I don't have all the specific occurrences, but based on what I've read, and I've counted 8 that, so, yes.
Yes.
Stronger measures, strong measures, assaulting peace officers or
The aggressors.
yeah, or the aggressors.
Yeah.
I believe this shouldn't go unnoticed. That's basically what it comes down to. I mean, we can talk, but I think this is something that,
Okay, well, we've got a motion on the floor, so we won't do debate right now. So I've got a couple questions here. Member Van Houten?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. And I totally appreciate and respect the concerns that you're bringing forward to my colleague. I just, from a timing perspective, the chief mentioned that they may take a further look into this to see statistically, where it is. So if you're going to put this forth, you have to be able to back it up statistically, I think. So I love the concern. I totally agree with you on that. I'm thinking timing wise, would you want to maybe have some further clarification on statistically where we sit in that area? And then I'd have no trouble whatsoever supporting the
Well, and that's a good point, and that's one reason to just to backtrack a bit with the consent agenda items. That's why we ask that if you've got anything on that and you're going to pull it, that way we can let the OPP know prior to the meeting that you're pulling something, and then that allows them the opportunity to gather the stats and the information so that they can provide a fulsome response to something. So, and I do understand what you're saying is that it might be a nice idea to have some stats and some follow-up before we go ahead and send something to the Crown Attorney. So I had Member Vanden Rishi.
As long as you know, this is not Willie speaking now.
Sorry.
Just if we could hear from.
Okay, just a minute. Time for a second. Yes? No, we don't.
No.
So no
No, we're
debate.
not debating.
No debate.
We're just-
So do we have a seconder for this motion? Okay.
Put on the floor.
Member Vanden Rishi will second the motion. All right, your turn. Member Vanden Rishi.
Thank you. Just if we could hear from the chief there, what his thoughts are. Should we be gathering some of this more information? And I realize that what we're looking at as the end result is to make sure that these people are dealt with so that there can be some sort of consequences and some sort of deterrent to make sure that these, can slow this down, so to speak. So I'd like to hear from you first.
Thank you very much. I agree. I think probably allowing for some more substantive analytics and data just to be able to look at, to be able to see, which would kind of cure any possible perception. If there's maybe a perception that might be influencing a little bit, the stats may prove a little bit more valuable. I know, obviously, as far as the OPP, our commissioner himself has been a very, very, very adamant and staunch supporter of bail reforms and has been pretty vocal about that in the media and across all the other OACP and IACP, et cetera. So it is a big priority. I know even the actual name, it's still brand new. I don't think the paint's dry, but it's still extremely new. But I know MAG has injected sizable funding into a violent offender bail program, where they're going to be dedicating even their resources and that to kind of channeling through very risk adverse and very violent offenders through their program as well. So there are a lot of things. Even MAG has this on their radar as well. So I agree. I think what I can do is definitely see some analytics and stats, and then maybe get a little bit more information on that violent bail program and kind of go from there.
Thank you very much for that follow-up. So at this point in time, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. And is there any debate regarding this motion? Does anyone else have anything? Member Van den Rishi? And these are our new microphones.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm wondering if we could defer the motion until next month, once we've got the proper stats to go with it. I don't want it to go unaccompanied by some good data.
And
if that's
this point being, our next meeting would be, this is September, so it would be November. So we'll defer it until the November meeting.
well,
Or do we want to do it as direction to the OPP that we get provided with the information, and then we could possibly go forward with the letter to the Crown Attorney? How would we like to move on that? Member Santos?
Madam Chair, if I may, sounds great if we can get direction and give direction. I think that'd be ideal, because we will meet in November. And then, as everyone is aware, things will be changing in the new year with the new act. We're still under Section 10 policing. So I think the sooner the better, so to speak. I mean, it's fairly clear that we've lost, I believe, 10 officers in Canada. And there seems to be this ideal thinking. And when I look at these, when I look at noteworthy occurrences, I mean, it's clear police and EMS are being assaulted. And by looking, and when I saw that and it caught my eye, I said to myself, and I looked back at all the papers that I have and figured we need to do something. So I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. So Genevieve, is that captured then, that we'll defer the motion and we'll send direction to the OPP to gather that information? And I guess it will be forwarded to the police board, and then we will make a decision from there.
It's board member Santos, not councillor. So if I may, I would have no problem deferring it, Madam Chair, to our county clerk.
You're seconding the
So
motion?
yes,
Yeah.
so I'll second that.
All of those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Do we have any other items that any members would like to pull? Member Cruz?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, on all three operational statistics and highlights, June, July, and August, I was pleased to see an increase in foot patrol hours and ride lane hours from this year to last year. I think the foot patrol gives the visibility, and the ride lanes gives the visibility in the community to not only to our business members and citizens, but just for citizens driving by and walking by and seeing the officers walking down any of our little towns, streets. I think it's fabulous. Ride lanes, I think it's fabulous increase in ride lanes. Traffic safety, wonderful. It's wonderful to see the increase this year as opposed to last year.
Thank you very much for those comments. I second the foot patrol. That's a very big thing in this community, where we are still, even though we are growing, we are still a small rural community, and it's noticed when our officers do foot patrol, and citizens respond very positively to that. So thank you for bringing that up. So if there's no other items that need to be pulled from consent, could I have all in favor of the...
Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Member Santos?
On a positive note, I wanted to just add to Member Cruz with regards to proactivity that the OPP have done in the month of June, July, and August. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention. I know we've read this, but I want to make it fairly clear that I'm grateful and very thankful for this. So on page 16, as we can see, public education campaigns. I mean, not only with the RIDE program, but the self-initiated activities with the KID programs at St. Cecilia's in Port Dover, the fighting fraud presentation, and also on page 31. And I understand we have Constable Polson here, who has basically taken it upon herself to continue with the education programs throughout the community. It makes a great difference, and it makes it clear to our community that the OPP are engaged on many levels, just not one level or on a simple 911 call or a 1-888 number. So I wanted to thank the constable and chief, if you could relay the thanks to all the officers, and also to add on page 46, and it continues on with the Superhero Week community event, the Spectrum with the gymnastics, the Alzheimer's Society, and it continues on. I mean, this is what community policing is all about, but during the summer, we tend to forget. And I was impressed, not only by the hours, but the activities. And it's throughout the whole community. So thank you very much. So Chief and to Constable Polson, once again, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so our thanks go out to Inspector Tate and the crew. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. At this point in time, all in favor of the consent items. I couldn't think of the word I wanted. All those in favor? And that is passed. That motion is passed. Okay, number 7, reports deferred from previous meeting. We have no reports deferred at this point in time. Number 8 on the agenda item is items for consideration. We have 6 items for consideration today. 9.1 is the 2024 budget overview. Ryan Fess has joined us today to provide an overview of the PSB budget. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Ryan and have him present. So Ryan will go through with a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. So I just want to say good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to provide an overview of the preliminary 2024 Police Services Board budget. Just to give you some context, we're holding preliminary meetings this month with internal departments as well as external boards and agencies to begin developing the proposed levy-supported operating budget for 2024, with council budget deliberations scheduled to take place on January 10th, 11th, and 11th, 2024. I mentioned this just to clarify that the version of the budget I'm presenting to you today is still in the draft preliminary stage, and amounts will change as various budget processes are completed and as information becomes available. Additionally, the board may resolve to make changes to the status quo budget, which can be incorporated in due process. Next slide, please. Before we get into the PSB portion of the budget, I just wanted to highlight that the budget as presented to council is at the overall police services level, as shown here. However, most of the requisition each year is driven by the OPP Municipal Policing Services activity, which I won't get into much detail on today. In general, I'll just mention that the municipality is informed of estimated service costs for the coming year around September or October, which determines the budget requirement for the next year. I believe we just received this annual billing statement yesterday, actually, and so for 2024, we'll update that budget accordingly. Next slide, please. So at a high level, the police services budget contains 2 main components: the PSB budget, which consists of various administrative items applicable to the board member activities, which will be explained in more detail in a few slides, as well as other discretionary items, for example, any specific community safety initiatives going forward. The OPP, the other piece is the OPP Municipal Policing Services budget, mainly consisting of the OPP service contract as mentioned previously, but it also includes revenues and expenditures related to the RIDE program, which we receive a grant for, the Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Grant, which helps offset some of the policing services costs, as well as OPP detachment revenues. The focus today, though, will be on the PSP budget, where there's a discretionary element. Next slide, please. So this report that you're looking at represents the PSP portion of the overall police services budget. Here we can see the forecasted 2023 actuals per our June 30th variance report presented to Council in July. The approved 2023 budget or status quo budget, base budget adjustments, that column represents recommended changes to the status quo budget, in this case generally made by finance staff based on known factors, inflationary adjustments and trend analysis, usually based on a 3-year average actuals, which I'll talk about separately in a few slides. Council approved a new budget initiatives or material service level changes that are either proposed or approved mid-year, of which there are none for this group as of this meeting. The sum of these changes result in the 2024 proposed budget request. Expenditures and revenues are organized into broad categories, and I'll talk about each in more detail on the next slide. Next slide, please. Thanks. So just in general, I'll kind of outline the types of expenditures that are included in the PSP budget. Member remuneration relates to salaries and benefits for eligible board members. We have mileage, so on that line, the mileage of $600. I'm talking about the current 2023 budget, the status quo budget at this point. Office supplies of $100, meeting expenses of $1,000 make up the $1,700 under materials and supplies. We currently budget $400 for refreshments for the monthly PSP meetings and $600 for the biannual zone meetings as requested in a previous year, I believe. However, I'll just mention not much has been allocated against that budget in recent years, so just mention that. So the services budget of $8,000 consists of $400 for postage, mostly related to the false alarm program, as well as $2,300 currently for training and development, which is mostly attributable to registration, accommodations, and per diems for 2 board members to attend the annual OAPSP conference. Memberships and associations account for $5,300, which is split between the annual OAPSP membership, which was sitting at $4,500, and it's based on police service size, and $800 for the OAPSP Zone 4 membership. Transfer payments and grants represents, as of 23, represents the previous allocation of $8,000 for the now discontinued Norfolk County Community Policing Committee for community safety initiatives. Interdepartmental charges relates to allocations from various Norfolk County departments for use of resources, i.e., clerks admin for support of the monthly meetings and other services that they provide, finance, insurance admin, HR services, etc. These are charged out consistently to all Norfolk County departments that utilize these services. Infrastructure funding relates to the contribution to the General Capital Replacement Reserve, which is to support the eventual replacement of the speedwatch signs, which have been installed across the county over the last few years. Lastly, fees and service charges revenue of $50,000 relates to the false alarm program revenues, which has consistently been pretty close to budget, to the current budget level in recent years. Next slide, please. So based on that, I'm basically, based on a preliminary review, I'm just recommending a few minor changes at this stage. As outlined here, recommending a slight increase to mileage based on the current corporate mileage rate and recent actuals. I believe it's like $600. I'm recommending an increase of $1,000 to the training and development based on 2023 actuals for the 2 members to attend the conference. And $500 is related to the OAPSP membership, which in 2023 was about $4,900, so increasing that by $500. Transfer payments and grants is decreasing by $8,000, which is related to staff's recommendation within a previous report in March this year, CAO 23-43, which was related to the discontinued Norfolk County Community Policing Committee budget, which I'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide. Additionally, not mentioned above, but increases to the interdepartmental charge allocations, most of which have had inflationary increases applied for the coming year, and will increase as finance staff update the allocation drivers for 2024. Next slide, please. As noted previously, the intention at this point is to remove the $8,000 that was originally budgeted, originally intended to support the Norfolk County Community Policing Committee. Per that staff report that I mentioned, the resolution was to allow the Police Services Board to allocate the $8,000 that was budgeted in 2023 accordingly to various community safety programs. There was a further staff recommendation in that report that suggested that we remove the $8,000 for the 2024 budget. And if the board wishes to make a request for funding consideration for community policing initiatives, that they can provide a formal request for the 2024 budget deliberations. So with that, I'll end my presentation and answer any questions that you might have. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the budget? Member Van Houten?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just a quick question. I was just wondering, from the revenue perspective, I thought at one time there was the police auction proceeds. They're no longer there, right?
Yeah, so I can clarify that. So the auction fund account was always held off book, so we don't include it in the statement of operations for the police board activities. So that's managed entirely by the police board. When we brought it into, it's under the control of Norfolk County, just so it adheres to all our policies and procedures. And you obviously have access to it, but there's a separate process whereby you can access those funds. So I do have an update on that account if you would like, but it just won't appear in the actual budget. So I haven't provided any information in the budget.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you're very clear. So the police board does have access to that fund.
Absolutely, yes. It
just
doesn't
believe
appear.
we gave, for example, for jerseys, for hockey or that policing was doing out of that. I thought, but
that's correct. Yeah. Okay. So I know that donation was made by resolution in February and is accounted for within the balance of that account. So that can be available on request through finance. So we can provide updates on that periodically if you'd like. So,
are there any other questions for Ryan regarding the budget? Member Santos?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question here is, I understand we have the false alarm bylaw, and there's monies that are being set aside from the revenue of that. And the last I remember was last year there was revenue of 54,000. Is that correct?
I don't have the actuals here in front of me, but that sounds probably accurate. Like I said, the budget is 50,000 for that revenue, and we've been consistently pretty close to that. So that sounds about right. Yes. So again, that revenue goes into, we budget for that revenue. It basically serves to offset the policing services costs for the main OPP contract.
So, Madam Chair, if I may just ask the question, so it offsets the reference of the 13 million?
Approximately,
approximately
12,
13, 14.
Yeah.
Okay. I understood a few years back, because I've been on the board for almost 4 years, that those monies were to be kept with the Police Services Board and used as needed. That was my understanding. So now it's just going into the revenue fund?
Well, no. So again, it's all part of the same budget. As I mentioned, it all rolls up to the police services level. If there was something that the board wished to add to the budget, then, I mean, indirectly, it would be offsetting that expense. It's not specifically earmarked. It doesn't get held separately from other revenues and for certain initiatives. It's just if, it's additional revenue that we don't have to levy for. So if again, there was an initiative that the board wished to add to the budget, then again, it would just indirectly offset that.
Okay. So are you telling me that anytime we need money, we have to actually approach council and request via a motion for monies?
Essentially, yes. Ideally, like, again, we should be having these meetings while we're developing the budget for 2024 or for the next year, I should say. So if there are certain initiatives that you'd like to add to the budget, we would do that, and that would be part of the levy request for the police services board for the coming year.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, if I may, it was my understanding that we would have a budget that we could work with, and if we surpass that we would ask council for extra monies. So each and every time we need to do something. So, for example, if we wanted to support the hockey team with the OPP, we have to then put forth a motion, ask council for those monies, and then come back. So we're looking at a span of 2 to 3 months.
Actually, hang on just a moment. I appreciate those thoughts, and I've got some answers for you. Genevieve, would you like to speak?
Sure, through you, Chair. And I will ask Ryan to correct me or help me if I get this wrong. But I would suggest that in October, there is an opportunity for all agencies, boards, and committees to be deputations to council and present their case for a budget. So the Police Services Board, and the chair will get to this just in a little bit after we're done Brian's presentation, will have an opportunity to have a member or 2 members, perhaps with an officer in attendance, be a deputation to council at a budget meeting on October 26th and say, here's our basic budget, here's what we need above and why we need it. So that would be the opportunity for the board to ask for those community policing dollars if there was an expectation that they come back. Also, just to note that auction proceeds fund remains with the board no matter what, and it continues on. Whereas the community policing funds was provided in 2023, whatever's not used will go back to the general coffers and may or may not be provided again. That would be the piece the board would want to request. And once it's included in the budget, then it's at the board's discretion how to use it. So anything above that, yes, would have to go back to council, but at least that would give you the money that you're using now this year for those discretionary items along the way. I hope that helps. And
Thank you, Genevieve.
Brian, please correct me.
Yes, no, you're correct in saying that. Again, the auction funds are available. If the board resolves to use those funds for certain items as they have in the past, it could be a Crime Stoppers donation. It could be, again, the jersey donation as was done earlier this year. All of that is completely at the discretion of the board and does not flow through the budget process for the rest of the budget. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. That actually clears things up for everybody. I know that we've had some issues over the last couple of years in terms of understanding our budget and where things were at. So could I get, Ms. Member Van Houten, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. So as I understand it currently, if I got this right, the one thing that's still kind of up in the air as we're doing the 2024 budget is that $8,000 that was no longer going towards the committee level, right? So we have an opportunity to have that money in the budget, or am I just want clarification.
You're right. Okay, so first off, are there any other questions regarding the presentation? Okay, Member Vanden Rishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Just looking at the budget, if you could tell me and describe what other revenues are. You've got a 10,000 in that forecasted actually.
That's a very good question. Good observation. So the 10,000, that's basically, we were aware at the time of doing the variance forecast that there was a separate report that went to council. It was an EIS report, and it was related to, I believe, some additional speed watch signs that the recommendation in that report was to use part of the suspense money. So not to open up another conversation, but if you recall from previous conversations, there were funds that were consolidated when the previous individual community policing groups combined to the Norfolk County Community Policing Committee. That money was being held in suspense. The total was about $14,400. And part of that March report regarding what to do with that $8,000 was also included recommendations for that $14,000. So I believe that report recommended that we use, again, that project had an upset limit of about 10,000. So we just, again, I just included it in the forecast that we would potentially use that. So there's an offsetting expense in there too for the 10,000. I think it might flow through either on the services or grants line. I can't remember at this point, but that's where that's coming from essentially. So it's not an ongoing budget item. It's just included for this year. So.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, at this point in time, could we have a vote on accepting Ryan's presentation as information? Thank you very much. That is carried. Now, things are going to be a little bit different this year for budget. So what I would like to talk to the board about is that on October 26th is budget deliberation days. I would like to request that the Police Services Board make a deputation to the Budget Committee at that point in time. I would be available to attend that meeting. Obviously, I'll be there as a counselor, but I will get up and change seats and do it as the chair of the board. And I was thinking that it would be nice if Inspector Tate or a designate could also join, and we can actually make a presentation to council regarding the funds that are required for the Police Services Board. We would request the funding for community policing, and we would do a brief presentation and let council know why those community policing dollars are so important for the Police Services Board to have in our budget. And we'll have some good data as well, because that is 9.2 recommendations for community policing funds is next on our agenda. So we'll be able to really provide council the budget committee with some really good information. So I would like to do an informal vote and just want to know if we have the support of the Police Services Board to move forward with this initiative at budget time. All of those in favor? Okay. Any questions? Go ahead. Sorry, I looked at you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I would as well maybe suggest that yourself as the chair or speaker could also have one of the other members with you, as well as Officer Tate. Now, and I'm going to do this right now. It's Commander Tate, right?
Inspector.
It's Inspector. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, I see you guys. All right.
No,
I
it's
just want to,
Inspector.
it's Inspector. I just want to get that clear because I'm seeing all these different names and titles. But anyway, that would be, Madam Chair, my suggestion that one of the other, because obviously I'll be sitting as a counselor.
Yeah.
So, but if one of the other members could accompany you, would be
Yep,
great.
great.
Everybody could be in the audience. It would be great too. So.
Yep. So everyone is welcome to attend, certainly to be in the gallery for the budget meeting. Is there anyone that would like to attend on October 26th for this budget meeting? Member Santos, you'd be interested?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll put that in the minutes. So it will be Chair, Member Santos, and Inspector Tate or designate. You can let us know what works best for you once you get a chance to check your schedule. Member Santos?
So, Madam Chair, if I may, just to add, so it was my understanding back in June that the Police Services Board put forth a motion and a recommendation of possibly an advisory committee from all wards. Has anything happened in that regard? Because we're talking about community policing. So I'm just wondering.
No, that it's done. So that's why these community policing dollars are so important. Right. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Officer Poulton and look at ways that we can use those fundings to achieve community policing in a different lens.
Okay.
Okay.
The reason I say that is the motion that I remember, and I have it here in front of me, was fairly clear. So I'm just wondering if council has dealt with it. And basically, just to refresh everyone, the motion was that the Police Services Board ask Norfolk County Council to put forth a recommendation to an advisory committee from all wards in Norfolk County to meet with members of the former Community Policing Committee and the OPP to make a plan and find a solution respecting volunteer involvement in the community policing initiatives. That was my understanding.
And my understanding is that came forth to council, and council decided not to move forward with any type of advisory board, that it was left just with the Police Services Board, and that we would find amongst ourselves unique ways to provide community policing, like I said, in a different lens. So, okay, thank you. Okay, moving forward. The moment we've all been waiting for. 9.2, recommendations re the 2023 community policing funds. Officer Poulton has a presentation for us at this time respecting community policing fund options. I would like to remind members that this is the issue that we discussed at our workshop in July. So please keep that in mind. And please go ahead, Officer Poulton.
Good morning. My name is Constable Shauna Poulton. I'm the Community Mobilization Officer for Norfolk County. And I put this presentation together from my perspective on what I believe our county needs, some gaps, I suppose, in our services, and where we're able to hopefully put some of the funds to provide our community with better services. So the first one, quite simply, is just our promotional printing. I have a bunch of examples here. Shall I just bring it? So I find a lot has gone digital. It's on social media, but I think members of the public appreciate having something in hand. And these are a lot of different services or different presentations that we offer here in our community, and along with our recruitment events that I've been taking over. Recently was designated a recruitment ambassador, so this will be our second annual or our second recruitment event coming up in October. And again, I want to go into our businesses locally here to be able to hand something out to give to. We're going to be promoting women in particular this month or next month. And as you can see, I printed it off there. It'd be great to be able to print those off and give those out to people. So I went to a local business and a Second Ave print apparel promo. They were gracious enough to get this done quite quickly for me. They provided some costing as far as what all these would cost going forward to print in bulk. And this is what they were able to provide me. I think this, that's it in hand here, but I can hand out what they provided, but this is generally what it was on paper. So to have 500 flyers published, it's around $275.72. To have the posters published, approximately 150 of them, it would cost $163.85. And then I kept a separate one for recruitment alone, and that was approximately 200. That came after my request to them, so I kept it separate on here, approximately 200, and that's going to cost around $226, which is a total of $665. And in the right-hand column there, those are all the ones that we were looking to have. And again, I'm sure there'll be more that pop up. There was an anti-human trafficking event that I hosted several months ago, and that was new to our county here. So hopefully as time goes on, there'll be other new events, and then we will add them to the promotional printing. The second suggestion I have, near and dear to my heart, I've been working really closely with homeless prevention all summer. We've seen within our county recently the pop-up of a lot more encampments and a lot more people that are struggling with housing. And so my proposal is through community supports and outreach. We do have a service here in Simcoe called Church Out Serving. And if you haven't heard from them, they're a wonderful organization. So it started in 2008. They started in 2008 when several Christians from different churches worked together on a community opportunity scan, COS. So they wrote a report on the findings of this study, and the study discovered needs and gaps, which were grouped into 3 areas. The 3 were family matters, building community, and overcoming poverty. Since then, through projects and partnerships with agency groups, churches, business, and community leaders, and their county government, they're finding many opportunities to serve. And one in particular is this Church Out Serving. I'll just finish the slide here. It says they're committed to loving our neighbors, engaging their culture, and impacting their community. They invite anyone who's interested in joining with them to volunteer, come be part of Church Out Serving. And the COS acronym, originally short form for Community Opportunity Scan, stuck with them, and that's where they got their Church Out Serving. Their mission statement, Church Out Serving is a faith-inspired, volunteer-run care network with a focus to love our neighbors. They do this with actions, serving in practical ways, drawing together people who are committed to making a difference in their community. So how does this tie into policing, and how can we help? So in 2021, Church Out Serving introduced their Simcoe's first local shelter, known as the Warming Center. We do have a shelter out in Jarvis, and it's a Haldeman Norfolk shelter, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's the Star Motel on Highway 3, just kind of between Simcoe and Jarvis. So the Warming Center is here in Simcoe and offers our most vulnerable neighbors a safe place to sleep. It's located at the corner of Yonge and Talbot Street in downtown Simcoe, and it's a spacious place within the First Baptist Church, and that's a picture of it there. The center is open every night to guests who would arrive between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. That's when they close their doors after 11. From December to April. So I put December to April because this year we have the opportunity to open sooner, which is great. It was from February until April, until now. From 8 p.m. until 7:30 a.m. in the morning. It's equipped with 20 quality cots and medical grade mattresses. Guests welcome by staff, volunteers, and security, and they enjoy a warm bed and a hearty meal. By 7:30 a.m., guests will leave with some continental breakfast items. And this project has been made possible with the help of our caring community, specifically citizens who find themselves homeless during the cold winter months. So the funding part of the funding that they're getting is from our homeless prevention from the health unit in Simcoe, local churches, community clubs, and private individuals, with separate men's and women's washrooms and a small kitchen inside. Right now, it's a 12-bed capacity. So that's what they have the funding for right now is 12 beds. They have registration area upstairs where all belongings are handed in and secured into a personal locker there. Until morning when they leave. Cell phones are the only exception that they can take with them. 7 nights per week. Like I said, it's 8 until 7:30. January 6th till April, so that was last year's. This year it's going to be December 1st. Paid security guard on site at all time, and at least one of the 7 staff will be there monitoring all night. At least 23 volunteers are involved in this program. So then I ran the stats for Norfolk and how it affects us as policing and within our community. So as you can see here, I ran the stats prior to it opening. So in 2018, November, December, January, I just ran the suspicious person calls because this is generally how it's loaded for us, is a person that may be out in the cold or maybe out in the streets near our businesses, and they call this in. And so this is how it would be loaded. So in 2018, from November to January, we had 138 calls for service. And then February and March, I ran because those were the months that our church out serving opened up the last 2 years. So you'll see 138, and then it reduced a little to 114. The following year, 2019, 125 calls for service, down a little bit again to 100. 2020, 157 between November and January. Again, it reduces a little bit, but we're still up to 140. Then in 2021, we had the pilot project with church out serving. So it was 159 calls for service prior to them opening. And then when they opened up, it reduced to almost half, and it was 84, which is a significant decrease in calls for service. Then again, the following year, this is last year, 153 calls for service just for those same months, like I've been running since 2018, and church out serving opened up. We were down to 66 calls. So significant decrease in calls. And as you can see, it's almost half, and that's pretty significant for us. So just some basic statistics from them. 42 different guests, and these are statistics from last year. 42 different guests, 12 women, 31 men. 542 visits in total. Average age was 41, youngest 18, oldest 74. Maximum number of guests at any night was 12 because they only have the costing to have 12 beds right now. Paramedics were called twice to assist and take somebody to the hospital. Narcan was only used once to revive a guest, and OPP was only called once to remove a guest. Typically I see, because I go there quite often just to check in, everybody's very respectful. They're very thankful and grateful to have the opportunity to have a warm bed overnight. Benefits to a Simcoe-based local shelter from a policing perspective. It's local. So I've spent a lot of time on the trails and in the encampments this summer, and I've been sitting down and chatting with these individuals, and their most difficult hurdle with the current shelter we have in Jarvis is that it's in the middle of nowhere. They don't have the supports they need out there. As much as it is a great shelter, and the women are wonderful. If I call them, they're usually able to get me a bed within 12 hours. But it is out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't want to leave their supports here in Simcoe. Most individuals will refuse to go to the shelter in Jarvis, and those that do accept the assistance typically return. I see them back within 12 to 24 hours. It assists males that find themselves in this situation. We have a women's shelter, but we don't have a men's shelter, and this allows for both of them to come. Allows police to utilize a local housing option with a simple intake process. So where it does take a little bit more work to get them out to the shelter, the Star Motel, there is a process, whereas this, if we find ourselves in this situation, as long as there's a bed available, we can transport them there and just leave them there if that's where they want to be. So how can you help? So this is the costing that they provided me, and it's specific mattresses and sheets that they have to buy. So one bed frame, one mattress, and bedding costs $500, and this is where their struggle lies. So they're looking to have 8 additional beds is their request. So by adding 8 additional beds, this would increase the capacity from 12 to 20. Allowing 8 additional individuals to stay in warm and safe environment throughout the winter months. And then I just put a little blurb here as far as what I'm working on and my hopes and dreams, at least in the next year and a little bit. So I'd love to assist church out serving to become a year-round out of the element shelter, not just during the cold winter months. It would, I think, highly benefit our county to have this year-round, as I saw this summer, the struggles. And a lot of people, sure, some of them want to be in that environment and prefer to live where they're living, but there are a lot of people that would prefer to have this type of opportunity. I'm also working on creating a pilot project for Simcoe for a weekly shower facility at Talbot Gardens. So the problem I've come across is we get calls for service with people showering or bathing in the library sinks. In particular, there's a really nice children's washroom upstairs, and they don't have anywhere else to go. They have nowhere else to bathe or shower, and so ignoring a problem that is just there. We need to find a solution, and the county has already, I've already proposed it to the county, and they're looking at getting approval. And I'd like to see it at Talbot Gardens because it's right next door to this church. And there'd be provisions, obviously, things that we'd have to work through, cleaning costs afterwards and who would be manning that. But that's a proposal that I've already brought forward. Collaborate with the Canadian Mental Health Association. They've already said that they would be able to help with taxi credits and also laundromat credits where individuals could go and clean their clothing and get a taxi ride to these services. And to partner with Church Out serving other local charities to provide a bag lunch on the days that they attend to have a shower or clean their clothes. They can leave with a meal. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very insightful and very informative. At this point in time, I'll open it to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for Officer Polton? Member Vanden Rishi?
Thanks, Madam Chair, and through you. Excellent report and talk about the gaps. It's amazing, actually, when we hear it and hearing it from you firsthand of what you go through. I think some of the, I would support it anyway, that we probably make a motion to support something like that. But at the end of the day, it's so sad. You know what I mean? That's the sad part of the situation where the gap is. But the idea, I didn't realize there wasn't facilities for them to take a shower, and your idea of incorporating an arena which already has the showers, which already it's the manpower to put it in. So a great idea. You know, you told us about the cost, which was the beds, which was the $4,000. But when you were talking to the council, was there any costs that you were thinking about when they were talking about like the shower? I mean, it's not going to be the facility, it's going to be the staffing. So was there any cost thought about there then?
So there would be no cost as far as the Talbot Gardens shouldn't cost anything. It's a county facility, and the county employees that would be there, they said that it would, you know, they would have somebody there during the time period that it was decided on, whether it was 2 hours or 3 hours. The cost where we came up with, we'd have to be very certain that those showers were properly cleaned afterwards and checked to make sure that when it does open up to the public, that it's a clean and safe facility for then members of the public to use. So that was the only small hurdle that we thought that may be a costing. But then I do believe that there is a service that we've discussed. I don't have the information on that, but it's very preliminary just because I don't have the approval from the county to go forward with it yet.
Right. I was just thinking, if I may, Madam Chair, the idea that it's children there after that, right? Because it's the hockey, you know, and sometimes it might be some sort of programming in the summer. Correct. So it would have to be well timed to make sure that there couldn't be any interaction between the two, or if, you know, they stay around. But it is a great idea, and thank you.
Thank you.
Member Santos?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I want to applaud your work. I've seen the work that you've done over the last 2 or 3 months, not only along the trail, but what's happened downtown. I've seen with my own eyes people sleeping on park benches. I've seen an individual actually bathe, unfortunately, under the bridge of Highway number 3. This is real. Now, where these individuals are coming from, I don't know. All I know is they're human beings that are searching for some love and a place. And I have to applaud you for the work that you've done. I've talked to certain individuals. They're very leery about even conversing. And there's a lot of mental health, there's no doubt. When I'm looking at this, I think it's way beyond our scope here, Police Services Board, but I definitely will put forth a motion that our council possibly hear what you've had or have to say and what you've done so that they're also aware. From our perspective, you've got my full support, and I believe the board's full support. But I mean, when I'm looking at these numbers, they're cut in half by the community coming in and making things happen. And fortunately, we have some direction. The concern is, will we have consistency and continuity from the OPP for the years to come? Because I don't know if this problem's going to get worse or better. That's a question that I put forth. And I've also heard in the community, from a community perspective, is some of these individuals are being dumped. And I shouldn't use the word dumped, but they're being brought in from Hamilton, brought in from London, Toronto. I don't know if this is true or not, but my question to the OPP is, so the numbers, have we noticed an increase in numbers for 2023, or have we noticed a decrease in numbers? Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
That's a good question. I actually spoke, some of you may know Jay Eberly. He's who was in this role prior to me. And we recently had a discussion because I asked him that exact question. And he said that in 2021, almost 80% of his job was trying to assist people that were in this type of situation. So it sounds like it's been fairly steady. I think there's a slight increase this year. I think because of the cost of everything is so difficult for people. I've seen definitely an increase just over the last 3 months. People staying outside, sleeping outside, making encampments. We're certainly in Norfolk County. They are locals from what I've seen. The 2 encampments that I've been visiting regularly, they're all people that in my 17 years I know fairly well. So I wouldn't say there's many situations where I think we're having people brought here and left here. So I don't think that that's necessarily happening. You mentioned about us continuing to assist these individuals. This is my role, I plan on continuing these efforts until I'm no longer in this role. So you have my word that this is not just a project that I'm focused on today and it'll be gone tomorrow. This is one of my top priorities to assist these individuals.
Any other questions before I say a few words? Member Van Houten.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. And maybe just I can't help myself but make a couple comments, and they would certainly echo the comments that are made by my colleagues. I certainly got to commend Officer Poulin for a great presentation and awesome work that she does in our communities here. So for me, it's an honor to be able to be part or help in a financial way if we can to the project. I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Santos?
Last comment. So I just want to make this clear. So this is just not Simcoe. We're talking Simcoe, Delhi, Port Dover, Waterford, or is this, because yes, we're Norfolk County, but I just want a clear indication, these numbers, because we're focusing on Simcoe. Are we including other wards?
So when I ran those stats, those are Norfolk County stats. I didn't specifically run just Simcoe. My experience since I've started this role, it's prominently Simcoe. We're dealing with it here, but that is because most of our resources are here, right? The clinics are here, the assistance is here, and but I am seeing it in Waterford, in Delhi, Port Dover. But like I said, it's mostly here in Simcoe. Those stats I provided were all of Norfolk.
I just want to say again, thank you. The detail that you've provided and the statistics, because as we know, statistics equal money. That's just the way it goes. I did want to ask a question. The promo printing, I was jotting down some notes, so I may have missed it. What was the total cost of the promotional printing? $665? Okay, that's very reasonable. That's why I thought that maybe I had missed something, because I thought that was the figure. And then the other, the community supports and outreach to church out serving would be $4,000. So we're looking at a total of $4,665.
That's correct.
Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything like that, because I believe we have $8,000. Is that correct? So I've got the finance part right.
Through you, Chair. I believe these numbers are up to date. I'll just double check with Ryan that there's 4,492 from the Community Policing Committee funds, which is available to use now. There's 5,500 in your 2023 budget specifically for community policing. And then there's the auction proceeds aside from that. So yes, and through you, Chair, I would just recommend if there was direction specific to printing the posters and pamphlets, that because we could only get an estimate and we will have to follow the purchasing policy if there's quotes to obtain or whatever, that maybe there be an upset limit at up to a maximum of that type of wording. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Genevieve, for that. That makes sense in terms of the promo information. So we still have, I'm never usually in this position, we still have some money to spend. First off, let's take care of this business. Would anyone like to put a motion on the floor in regards to utilizing our funds from the budget, the community policing budget, for $6,665, $4,665? Okay, Member Van Houten?
We're make that 5 because we need an upper limit.
Sorry,
make
yes. Okay,
that.
so $5,000. Okay, there's a motion. Is there a seconder? Member Cruz. Any debate on that? Okay, we're good on that one. All those in favor? Thank you very much. I'm very excited for this collaboration. I just think it is it's a way to bring the services to the people in a way that counts. For some people where there might be a few naysayers saying, well, what about this organization? Doesn't that do that? It takes a village, and we really need to all work together. And the statistics that you provided were black and white, stating that we are using resources of our local police department for these issues where we could be better serving our other residents. So it's a win-win for everybody. So thank you very much for your hard work and your dedication. You are a rock in this role. So, all right, Member Vanden Rishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Just one question. And I take it from Member Santos here. If there was an incident where someone was found in the, say, Langton area or Port Rowan or whatever, and the officer comes to that call, do they usually then suggest maybe we'll drive you into Simcoe and there's an opportunity to take you, you know what I mean? Just so that's sharing the support.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be a Norfolk County support service for sure. And that's what we do right now when we come across somebody, doesn't matter where within our county. They will, if it's daytime, they'll usually reach out to me or our MCERT program or our homeless prevention team from the health unit. And we just wrap around them and we find whatever it is, whatever surf it is. There's, a place out in Hagersville. And if there's openings there, we just do what we have to help them out. Yeah.
Member Santos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Chief, to Constable Polson, I think that this conversation should be furthered to our councillors and our mayor. This is something that the Police Services Board can help with, but I mean, I think over and above us, and it should go back to council. It should go to council. I believe. We do have 2 councillors on our board, but I mean, as I understand, if the numbers will go higher or are higher, there's going to be a little bit more. And I know there's one taxpayer. We're all taxpayers, and there's only one taxpayer, but I think maybe this should go back to council. So I don't know if we need a motion or if Chief Tate with or Inspector Tate with Constable Polson actually attend a meeting at council and put forth this presentation.
Well, actually, what I was hoping to do was kind of rope Officer Polton into attending the October 26th budget presentation. And I thought that that would be a very nice, it's two birds with one stone. It gets the information, which council is aware we do have this information through our Health and Social Services Advisory Committee and our Board of Health meetings. So we're kept pretty much in the loop with the individuals. And we obviously do deal as counselors with questions and concerns from the community regarding encampments. So this is a refresher for council. It's a great way, like I said, that you can't go wrong with those statistics. So I'm sure that Inspector Tate can free up her schedule for that day. What we'll try and do is we'll try and nail down a time so that you're not sitting in the gallery all day when you have more valuable things to do with your time. So if that's okay, that's the direction that I would like to take on October 26th. Okay, well, that was exciting. I've been waiting for a couple months for that, so yay. Okay, next on our agenda is I've added a couple things for discussion, and I'll lead off here. Speed enforcement, road safety is just it's off the charts. I can't begin to tell you as counselors how many calls we get from community members regarding our traffic safety right now. It's over the top in every community. Every ward is feeling it. Council's receiving high numbers of calls, complaints regarding speed and reckless driving. What I know that we have our road safety committee that has a member of the OPP sitting on that committee. But in addition to that, what way can we all work together in regards to speed enforcement? Is there anything that you can give me that you've got in the books coming up? I know there isn't a magic solution, but we really need to, because we have so many roads and we're so rural and we don't, really have a lot of public transportation. We have a high volume number of vehicles on the road. So just looking for a little bit of help.
Thank you, Chair. Definitely traffic safety, traffic complaints. I know, I completely agree. I know we probably receive an equal amount of complaints. I'm sure you probably even receive more with complaints. A lot of it too is measurable as well. And I know very often in my experience in the past, some of the different areas I worked, for example, dump trucks. So, there's some areas under heavy development. A lot of dump trucks are in the area, and a lot of, again, the local people living in the area there, their perception is that these dump trucks are speeding. They're really speeding. So what we'll do is we'll assign an officer to go out there to monitor with speed measuring devices and to capture that. And oftentimes it comes back, there may be traveling 35, 40 kilometers an hour in a posted 60 kilometer an hour zone, far below the speed limit, but they're heavy vehicles and they make a lot of noise. And so again, are they speeding? Are they not speeding? That's always kind of the question. I do know, and again, just in my very limited time being here, I do know as far as the efficiencies of deployment of resources and being able to, again, keep our finger on the pulse of areas and working collaboratively together and trying to measure that. I do know we do have some of that, talking to Paul back at detachment, we do have the speed measuring devices there that do drive and pull analytics, so we can put them, they can be placed anywhere in the county for a set period of time, which collects the data and Paul, what he's been doing pretty much independently on his own volition is managing that himself and trying to get them out there to install them so that he can then collect the data to then provide to us. So if we have a traffic complaint, very often, with resources and the challenges of the nature of the business, oftentimes it's nice to put these independent devices in a location where there has been complaints, let them maybe sit there for 2 weeks, and then at 2 weeks you can pull and collect the analytics and the data to see if in fact people are speeding and if it is indeed a concern. I have personally, in other communities, I have seen it all over the spectrum. I've seen areas that were reported to be very, very high incident of speeding were extremely low. Maybe one vehicle coming at the same time every day, usually a commuter is that person that's raising that. Other times I have seen it very high. So if it's high, then we can go, this is a problem. So we are now going to physically deploy assets like and our resources to that area to physically be there with the LiDAR and the radar speed measuring devices. But I do know Paul has been kind of managing it, my understanding, on his own. Obviously, Paul has a heavy other assignments at detachment. Previously, when I worked in with Nottawasaga OPP, which was Alliston, Agilitas, Oroncio, Beaton, that Newton, like that kind of area, it was a really good relationship. So basically, and even in Huronia West at Wasaga Beach, so Wasaga Beach would maintain and manage those speed measuring devices. So in other words, as the complaints are coming in to the town would then go, okay, we're getting a lot of complaints on Golf Link Road, for example. So we're going to put this out there and measure it for 2 weeks, and we're going to let the police know. There's a collaboration back and forth, and they would maintain management of that and then provide us with all the analytics so that we could see it and then use our effectiveness to directly deal with that. So as opposed to us trying to manage it, it was kind of more managed by the municipality and the county. So I don't know if that's something for consideration. Or...
No, that's definitely helpful. And I do know that there is a lot of perception sometimes. And I think that the dump trucks, I just dealt with that in my ward. And I don't know if that was the one you were talking about, because, you know, they are large vehicles on smaller, narrow roads, and they are quite loud, and there was a frequency and stuff, and, you know, so on. And it was determined after it being checked out that they weren't speeding, but they were just causing basically a disruption to the neighborhood. So I definitely see the OPP and Norfolk County working together on this. And that's where I think our road safety committee comes in handy. And that's where some analytics from the OPP can get passed over in terms of that. So I just wanted to and part of the reason with this, the speed enforcement discussion, is I want the residents of Norfolk County to know that the OPP are aware. They're doing, they're providing the best service with the information that they have gathered. You're willing to gather more information and try and head off some issues, and Norfolk County is working in collaboration with the OPP. So it is, I know, and we have had in the past number of years, you know, we do have fatalities on the road, and it's certainly something that we want to make sure doesn't occur again, and we keep our roads as safe as possible. So with that, it's not really, I don't need a motion, I guess. We don't receive it as information or anything? No. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Member Santos?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was my understanding that Norfolk County had put up ASE cameras, and I looked at my notes, Port Rowan, Simcoe, Port Dover, and then Cockshot Road. So I'm just wondering what's happened with that information that's come through. And I just wanted to add, I mean, the whole issue here comes down to enforcement. I mean, we can talk about speeding all we want, but it needs to be enforced. And I understand the OPP are doing the best that you can. And this is a problem that is provincially wide. I mean, we have our neighbors, I believe, to the north, which is Brant County, have the same problem that we have here in Norfolk County, which is speeding. I have noticed, Chief, that we've had 4 fatalities in Norfolk County, and 2 of those, I understand, had to do with speeding. That's what I understand here. So I mean, so my question then would be, Chair Huffman, is in reference to these cameras, are they working, or are they giving us any indication of what we need to do?
Thank you for that question. Yes, those are the identified areas that the speed enforcement will be put. Now, I will call on my colleague, Councillor Vanden Rishi. I don't know I can't say for sure that they've been put up. I don't think they are in operation yet because I travel one of those areas quite frequently, and I don't recall seeing any change and noticing any of the speed enforcement, the automated speed enforcement. But what I can do for you, though, is I can follow up with county staff, get the answer to that question, and send it out to everybody so that everybody's got the answer.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Make a note of that. Okay, the next one is, I'm going to jump ahead. Sorry, 9.4 I'm going to finish with. So 9.5, this is something that was brought to my attention by a community member, and I did a little bit of research on it. And this was mentioned in our council chambers a couple of years ago, and unfortunately nothing was able to come to fruition. And it's unlawfully modified vehicles. I think we have quite a few of those in Norfolk County. I don't know. I know there's a lot that go up and down Main Street in Waterford. Now, what I wanted to just bring forward is I know that we don't serve in a model to dictate what the police do, just as an open discussion. I'm aware that Brantford just did a 3-day blitz on these types of vehicles and had a very successful statistics from that. So I was just wondering if this is anything that's crossed your desk, or if this is something that I can put a bee in the bonnet, or any discussion that you may have or feedback, Inspector Tate.
Yeah, definitely arise, and it has been kind of growing for the past few years. Again, previously I was at Horonia West Detachment in Wasaga Beach, which experienced H2OI, which are all the modified vehicles where a lot of, and I don't want to classify it, but kind of younger people, car enthusiasts. It's just different. It's like a 2023 version of back in the day, the old car clubs, and that they're very, very passionate about their vehicles. However, it is a different mindset. The crowds, the potential are pretty massive. And I know Wasaga Beach with H2OI became a landing ground for all these modified vehicles. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of them would descend on that area there. So, which then raises a whole bunch of challenges for the municipality, and it raises a whole lot of challenges for the police as well for enforcement. The benefit of that, though, is my involvement in that area. I have developed a lot of really solid contacts with our own organization, but also through Ministry of Transportation, the Insurance Board, etc. So also in partnering, I think one of the things we always have to be very, very cognizant of is always watching and being aware of what our neighboring municipal police services are dealing with, because oftentimes, like the Waterloo Regional Police in their area, I know there's a huge initiative for these vehicles. Where I was from, the city of Barrie, also the police there were doing really enhanced education to their frontline officers and their traffic people, what to look for and how to best deal with this to try to target this area. And I think I can definitely see here, personally, in my limited time here, there hasn't been anything brought to my immediate attention about these vehicles as being a real concern. However, I'm a real true proponent of nipping things in the bud, so to speak. So if it's something that our officers could really benefit, I'm always extremely supportive of ongoing education and training for our members. So something we can definitely look at and pursue.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's what I was hoping for some discussion about that. And yeah, I think it is this current version of the car club, and it's different. And I know that it's quite a bonding thing for a lot of individuals, and they get together with their vehicles and things like that. But when you start to get a lot of it, it's quite, I can sit out on my deck sometimes and hear the same car 3 concessions over. so yeah, it's interesting. Member Vanden Rishi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, a couple of things. When I think of unlawful vehicles as well, I'm wondering, bring your attention that, do you stop vehicles that have no front license plates?
Absolutely. Well, it
Okay.
depends. So the officers, when they're out there doing their general patrols, they're obviously in ensuring traffic safety. One of the things we talked about was speed. So obviously speed is one component of traffic safety. Another component is equipment and the condition of your vehicle. So the officers are trained, they know what to look for. Oftentimes it is a Highway Traffic Act offense not to have two plates displayed under the Ontario Highway Traffic Act in the front and the back of the motor vehicle. That being said, if it's a visitor from Quebec or from maybe the United States, they may not have a front plate. So they're very adaptable. They know what to look for, and if it is missing a front license plate and it's an Ontario marker, I'd suggest that most of the officers probably would stop the vehicle just to kind of get an understanding who the driver is and to do a good check.
And if I may, around in the rural areas, we have a lot of, and you're right, the young people now in their 20s and that have, they're buying these vehicles that are what I call really high super dune buggies from years ago. But years ago, they used to ride them on the farms because that's where the sand was. But now they're getting out on the roadways. That has become an issue as well. They're very pricey vehicles. You can see they're even souped up four-wheelers type of deal. And we in our municipality of Norfolk, we still, it's not legal to ride a four-wheeler on the roadway, correct? No, I know I'm correct.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for correct.
Rhetorical question.
Rhetorical
That's a
question.
rhetorical question.
And here's a question then. Do you think we should be doing more education, starting to re-educate the young people that, hey, you're not supposed to be riding a four-wheeler down the road at 60 kilometers an hour, and that these other souped up vehicles shouldn't be on the road. Number one, they don't have the insurance, and then something happens and they interact with a vehicle, then everybody's in problems, So just looking at that maybe, do you think there's somehow we as a county could do a little bit on our websites or something, informing people, about the rules?
Absolutely. I think too, like, it's again the education piece, and I think it goes even with our officers, like I was suggesting, where we have new officers coming to the detachment where vehicles of that nature may have been under a bylaw or so been okay in the area there, but in a different area, it's all kind of different. So they need to be educated and know how to deal with that. But you're totally right. We do have an extremely effective social media platform here, like as you know, like a very strong history of our detachment and being very engaged with the media, social media, etc. In doing a lot of education on Facebook, Instagram, like all these other areas and that too. So I think we need to kind of look at again demographics without getting into it, but I'm kind of breaking it down and demographically, whom are the participants? What's kind of the age group makeup of that? And and again too, it can be all ages, but if it is a certain age group, then we'll use whatever social media and that would directly link to those people to reach that message. But I agree. I think even the county as well, like it's a collaborative approach. Like we can educate, and even with Andrew Gamble and at our detachment, we can work together to try to get some consistent messaging.
Oh. All right. Thank you very much for that discussion. Member Cruz, my apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recall us talking about this maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, where there were problems maybe in Waterford, downtown Port Dover, and other areas where people would modify the mufflers and drive up and down the main streets there. And I remember that Niagara Regional Police had an initiative there where they educated their frontline officers on the Highway Traffic Act, specific laws with respect to modification, and then they went to their media partners and went through that too, and it was very successful, I'm told. That's what I recall. So Niagara perhaps would be a good resource to go.
Yes,
Thank
I'm sure there's probably some
Yeah.
blueprints out there for how to deal with it. So that's very helpful. So thank you very much for that discussion. Next on the agenda is that I had skipped over. I just wanted to kind of keep the traffic ones together. Item 9.4, intimate partner violence. As mentioned earlier in our meeting, Member Santos had pulled from the stats some things that he was concerned about on the increase. And I must say that I'm very concerned about the high increase that's been reported recently of intimate partner violence. And not only just one perpetrator, but there's also been 2 individuals charged at the same time in certain incidences. Is there anything, is this something that is rising across all genres of the province, or just wondering? It's been quite noted in the media, and just wondering if there's anything that you could share with us, or any initiatives that you have going on currently to deal with the drastic increase in the intimate partner violence.
With respect to this, it is a critical area with the Ontario Provincial Police, with us as far as our priorities. It's one of those things where personally, as well, at our detachment, we are having a sergeant's meeting tomorrow, and there'll be a couple things I talk about, and it is one item that I'm really stressing to our officers, that it is a critical policy, and it's a critical area that we need to be in tune with from an investigative side. So we will do our part. We will attend these calls. We will always be professional, compassionate, empathetic to victims and victimology, and supporting whomever we have to do in laying appropriate charges and that. So I also want our officers to stress to always ensure an extremely thorough investigation, and to make sure that everything's covered off, that they've done everything properly, everything that we can. I don't want to say that that's part of our role, and obviously we also get into education. We can also support other areas of our society, and that it is. I think if there is an increase in this kind of area, it is a societal shared issue as well, right? So that can be anywhere from addictions to violence, violent counseling and anger management. Just there's a whole bunch of supports, mental health, etc. It's very daunting times right now for a lot of people, and if you use the equate it to a pressure cooker, I think people are already a little bit stressed, and you put it into a pressure cooker of the current environment and it just magnifies. But I think we just really need to do our part to make sure we're covering off, but as well to keep collaborating with all the societal partners to make sure we're all on the same page.
Thank you very much for that. And I agree. As a point, I do understand for some people who don't know the statistic, the day after Super Bowl is one of the highest rates of intimate partner violence. And that's due to gambling and alcohol on the previous night, and people losing money, and then unfortunately partner violence precipitates. So what you're saying, it does make sense. We are in a society still under a lot of stress after our dealing with a worldwide pandemic and the economy and things like that. It's kind of a perfect breeding ground, unfortunately, for the wheels to fall off for some people, and we need to do our best to make sure that we provide those supports and keep everybody in our community safe. So that I just wanted to add that, because that's been all over. I keep wanting to say Twitter. I might do the Twitter thing mostly now, because Facebook and Insta don't necessarily get to carry all of the news, so get a lot of that on there. So on a lighter note, item 9.6 is the Be Well, Serve Well conference, and it's a request for registration funds. And I would like to have Staff Sergeant McNorgan speak to us this.
Morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board about a great opportunity that our members can have to look after their mental health and wellness as well. This is called the Be Well, Serve Well Conference. It's being held November 29th in London this year. Historically, our Healthy Workplace team has been able to fund tickets so our members can attend this conference. Unfortunately, this year, those funds aren't available. So just a very brief and high-level overview of what members can expect from this conference is they'll be provided with valuable insights, resources, and tools that will help them maintain mental health and well-being in the workplace and at home. And we've heard a great presentation from Constable Polton. We've had some great meaningful discussion about, speed enforcement and intimate partner violence, et cetera. The crux of all that, it's important that our members are healthy and well too, to make sure that we look after what we need to as well. So with that, although we would love to send every member in our detachment to this training, I appreciate that's not possible. And so today I respectfully request for consideration the board's support for Norfolk members to attend this conference. The financial part of it, each member would cost $134.46 to attend, and that's a total of $537.84 for 4 of our members to attend. Our expectation from the members who do attend would be to come back to our detachment and share that information and the knowledge and the resources they gained. Exactly, yeah. So they'll share that with our members at the detachment as well, our frontline members, specialty units, civilian members, everyone. And also with that as well, we would be happy to have a member attend the next available police service board meeting after the conference to speak to the board about some resources and tools and et cetera that they gain there at the conference. Again, building member resilience and enhancing wellness skills, it positively affects our members, our detachment, our organization, and as I mentioned, the communities we serve, because our members will be coming to work healthy, well, and be able to put a full effort towards policing Norfolk County. That's what I have, barring any questions. I do appreciate and thank the board for their consideration.
Thank you very much. That's a very fulsome explanation of what the conference would provide. Are there any questions from the members? Member Cruz?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, staff. I'm just wondering why member wellness is huge for sure, and I'm wondering why the OPP or the OPP Association or the Ontario Police College doesn't do something about this, rather than having to go to a police services board for funds, or having to go. I don't know where the paramedics go, or I don't know where the firefighters go for their funds, but.
Thank you for the question. And there are many different things that we do within our organization to promote and to teach resiliency and wellness, et cetera. Mm-hmm. This simply is another resource, another tool that we have the opportunity to attend. And respectfully, I submit that any opportunity we have to attend something like this, we will do so. Again, historically in the past, our Healthy Workplace team had funds for it. Unfortunately, not this time around. I didn't want members to miss out on this opportunity and thought I would present it to the board today.
Thank you.
Member Santos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Staff Sergeant, I'm fully supportive of having 4 members attend from Norfolk County in London. So just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Would you like to make that a motion?
I'd make that motion.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Member Van Houten? And at this point in time, any other questions or debate? Member Van den Riche?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too probably realize there are a lot of other resources, but this one is certainly one that will help enrich your tools to be able to bring back to the other officers. So it's really important for mental health. And I think any avenue or any extra, I mean, there's always something new we learn at every conference. So I too will be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'd call to vote everybody in favor of the motion. And that is passed unanimously. So looking forward to, it looks like it's November 29th, so it'll probably be the January meeting that they come back and give us a presentation on. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and I'm glad we're able to get 4 Norfolk members at this conference. So. Item number 10 is correspondence arriving from previous business. At this point in time, we have no correspondence from previous business. Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, through you, usually we have if other business. I just have one.
No, I don't think we do have other business on our agenda.
I thought we were supposed to have other business on any other business on any other.
No, that's council.
Oh, I've had it through other, but anyway, I have a point, if I could bring it up at that point in time or not, or is it something that, it's just an issue? I just had a question to the officers. If there's no room to put it on, well.
No, not really, no. No, you might want to maybe after the meeting,
Sure,
talk to
I'll
them.
do that. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so, we're almost ready to adjourn. I would just like to, Member Cruz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I'd just like to welcome Inspector Tate to our. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry because I didn't see it. I want to welcome you, and we look forward to working with you and your staff in the future. And I also want to thank Staff Sergeant Jeff McNorgan. He did a wonderful job as the interim detachment commander, and it was wonderful working with you and your staff and Staff Sergeant too. It was a smooth transition, and I'm hoping it was a smooth transition here too. And I just wanted to state that. I also have one more thing to state. On the weekend through social media, I looked and was very pleased to see a high contingent of OPP officers in Ottawa at the Officer and Peace Officer Memorial there. And as I looked through the names of the officers who paid the ultimate sacrifice, I remembered several throughout the last 30 or 40 years, because you read about what's going on and you hear about what went on in the circumstances. I went to college with one of the officers there, and I was just happy to see a big presence there from the Ontario Provincial Police. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. Yes, I was going to thank Staff Sergeant McNorgan for filling in, and then of course our Staff Sergeant Fox for picking up from his job, and so on and so on. And would like to welcome Inspector Tate to Norfolk County. I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of you. And I would like to wish our OPP and our community a very safe and successful PD 13. Trial, what is it? Putting your feet to the fire is what I wanted to say. So yeah, you haven't been here that long and you get to experience your first Friday the 13th. So I do know that you have some large group experience with Saga Beach and some of their issues. So, but I think PD 13 is a little bit different for everybody. So it will be interesting to see how it goes, and I hope we have nice weather. So our next meeting will be on in November. And so again, any agenda items or anything like that, please forward to the clerk or myself. And with that, we will look forward to our budget day on October 26th and make a presentation to the budget committee. So with no further comments, may I have a motion for adjournment? Member Van Houten, seconded by Member Santos. And we are adjourned at 11:17 a.m. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.